Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sarah Martin with The Contoured Chemist. Today is Get Ready With Me Day with October's Shade of the Month. This is Taffy. We are going to use this and make it fall in today's look. And of course, do all the comparison swatches as well. So if you want to check it out, please keep watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and thanks for being here. All right, friends, let's go ahead and get started. And I'm just gonna start with the number one thing I've heard about this shade. And everyone says, how is that a shade for October? Okay, so it's a beautiful color. It's called Taffy. I have not tried it yet. I just got mine. And I got one for a giveaway winner as well. But I would say, I truly believe you can make any color into a fall look. Yes, it's October. You might have wanted a really deep, warm tone. Y'all know that's probably my favorite color of all time, but we will still make this work. Because why? Because the most fun part about Seint IIID Foundation is mixing and matching lip and cheeks and creating new shades. So I will show you guys all the comparison swatches when we get to this and how we can make it work and what kind of looks we could get. I'll be honest, I don't have this look planned at all. We're just gonna go with it and see what happens. Sometimes those are my best looks, the ones I do not think ahead and I just figure it out as I go along, you know? So we're gonna go ahead and start with the Thank Me Later eye primer. I'll be honest, guys, right now I have a primer on my face, so I did use my sunscreen and I am using a primer, and you guys know I'm always very adamant that you don't need a primer with 3D unless you're super oily. But I still get so many questions about using a primer and people that want to use a primer and for many different reasons. And I get it because we've kind of been taught with liquid foundation, you have to use a primer. I truly believe if you have the right colors and 3D foundation, you have the right highlights, you will not need a primer with this makeup. It's designed so you don't, but I'm testing one. We're gonna see what my face looks like at the end of the day because I got sold on an Instagram ad. You guys know I'm a sucker for those. So anyway, I'm not gonna share because I don't know. It might not work. So I will let you know if it does. You can guarantee it. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Besides that, I got my eyeshadow. I just put on new lashes, more Amazon lashes, mind you, which I'll share as long as these last a full week again. You guys know I put all the details from every video, like whatever I used, I will share it in the Dropbox below the video by the time this video is live, okay? So if you're ever questioning something, it's in the Dropbox. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start with my color corrector because I can't do my makeup without it. So I got the blend brush and I don't know, I've been using this brush on repeat just to hit those smaller areas of my face. And I don't know about you guys, but like when it starts getting colder, I tend to wear a little bit more foundation. Is it just me? I know it's not just me because I know a lot of people say they don't wear much makeup in the summer and then they start wearing more in fall and winter. And you guys know I love Mia, barely there, showing my skin kind of look. But I've been wearing a little bit heavier. So I am just going to hit the small areas with this small end first. And then I'm gonna go back in, I think. And again, I'm barely touching. Like, touch. Barely touching, not swiping. It's all in amounts with this method. If you can just barely touch the product, I promise less is more. And the more you use this, the more you will figure out how much to tap in and with how much pressure and with what brush, to where now it's like second nature with me. I can tell with how it's going on. And it's not like if you touch a point, you can't go back and add more, right? Because our skin changes every day. Some days I need a lot more on certain points of my face that give me texture than others. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and go into the blush end, and my rosacea is a little bit more inflamed today because I shaved my face with my Jill, and it always kind of just makes my skin a little bit more sensitive because, again, I dermaplaned my entire face. So, okay, so I just want to make sure I hit all the darkest points. And now I can color correct blemishes, darker points of hyperpigmentation. I'm just gonna kind of press that on anywhere I need a little extra coverage. Okay, you can tell it's kind of pulling me a little too dark because I self-tanned, but I don't feel like it's fully developed yet. So I'm gonna go in with my main shade and keep myself matching and even out, build up coverage, all that good stuff. So back to the blush end, because this one will give me more like medium coverage. Now I'm just touching and then tapping on that area. So it works pretty well, but I feel like I always have to go back in with the blend brush again and just make sure I didn't miss any of those crevices that this bigger brush can't fit into, you know? Since my entire nose has a lot of hyperpigmentation, I tend to, and it's the darkest part of my face, I tend to press on a little bit more just there to lighten it up, and then up around my eyes. Gives me more coverage. And then I kind of even out my lids. Blemishes, dark spots. Anywhere you want more coverage, go back on and just hit it one more time. Okay, it's looking a little heavy for me. We're not done. It's all good. Let's go ahead and contour. So maybe we should try a different contour. I feel like I'm a little washed out. Believe it or not, I am a big fan of using indigo in the fall. If you don't know, indigo is like one darker than Astoria. So I normally wear Astoria. Okay, it's cooler and lighter. Indigo, if I can get a good swatch going on. I feel like if you fully swatch it, they're very deceiving looking because it looks so much more red. Swatches can be deceiving. Do you see how much warmer that is? So this one is technically one shade darker and warmer. I'm kind of telling that I really need to melt down my contours, guys. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and use indigo because I just exfoliated today. I will be honest, indigo is my favorite color to wear for fall for contour, but I no, I can't use it if it's a day that my skin is giving me texture issues. I love the shade, don't get me wrong, but if you have indigo and you ever have issues with it blending, especially in the cheek contour area, I notice I have issues with it blending here if I have not exfoliated very recently. Like, I exfoliate every 3 days like clockwork, but if my skin is dry or anything, which can kind of happen as the seasons change, I avoid this shade, okay? And if I try it and it's not working for me, I will actually dip into Astoria and apply it over it and almost kind of mix the two. And it's crazy because it will suddenly blend out better. But indigo is a rare beast. And for some reason, mine is so dry, oh my gosh. For some reason, it just does not blend out as easily as other shades. So I'm just giving you guys a heads up. If you have it and you hate it and you think that that's why, maybe try shaving your face or exfoliating and then using it, or using a cooler shade to kind of mix in with it on those days it's not blending. It really can be a game changer, at least from my experience with myself and lots of customers that have the same issue. But it's a beautiful shade that kind of adds some warmth, and it's kind of a bronzy-esque shade. So yes, I wear it a lot in the summer too, but for some reason it's like summer and fall for me. Or when I'm feeling a little washed out and need a little bit more color, it's gonna add more. I also feel like I don't have to use as much bronzer. So if you are a bronzer girl and you're using a warmer contour and you're feeling like you're too warm, switch to a cooler contour. It is very easy to use all warm everywhere and get pulled too warm. And of course, our contours are supposed to give a natural looking shadow. If it just looks like you're contouring with bronzer, that's not the look we want. So I still am getting a shadow. It's just a warmer shadow. It's not as cool, not as gray. Does that make sense? Indigo is technically neutral. But I've got rosacea. Everything pulls warm on me, even the coolest, which is Astoria. If you don't like warm contours, I don't recommend indigo. Okay, so cheekbones, around the forehead. If you're a lot lighter, the darker you go with the contour, the harder it will be just naturally to blend. So take that into consideration as well. And you'll see it looks super red right now, but that's because my face is reactive, and if I touch it, it turns red. So it will die down, I promise. It's not gonna look like that the whole time. Okay, for noses on the other hand, my nose, you guys saw, is naturally red and dark. Noses pull more red than any other part of our face naturally, so I don't recommend contouring your nose with a warm shade. So I'm gonna go back into Astoria just for my nose contour. I'm just gonna kind of wiggle the end there so that I can attempt a straight line. That was keyword attempt. Good enough. Okay, and then anywhere the most natural shadow is going to be more gray based, in my opinion. So under the lip, I'm going to hit with Astoria. Now, one of my favorite things is mixing the two, or using Astoria like normal and then just hitting the deepest part of where your cheekbone naturally would be with that darker shade. I usually reserve that for like special occasions, date night or events to where I really want my contour to pop, but it's a good technique. So I'm gonna just clean it up with my highlight. And we are ready to brighten. I feel like the center of my face is pulling very yellow. It could be the lighting because it is dark and rainy today. So it's okay, we'll adjust. I'm gonna go ahead and brighten. I have been brightening a lot less lately. I don't know if it's because I'm getting older and my skin is sometimes more textured than others, but I've only been brightening with a very light hand. If you guys have watched older videos, you know I used to use this. The buff brush picks up a lot more product, and I've been liking the look with the blend brush. So if you want a more full coverage look though, that brush is gonna be your best friend. I'm just going to barely, and I just use it when I'm mainly nose contouring because I gotta hit these darker sides of my nose here to kind of slim out the nose. This highlight on the side and the middle is really what does the most work when it comes to contouring. So right down in between those two stripes, blend it in between. This is also an area of texture on a lot of people, so I tend to just barely put any right in between my brows. And if I want a little bit more light on the center of my forehead, I will very light hand, okay? So just pay attention to where you have texture on your face and avoid those areas with the lightest of your highlight shades. This shade will emphasize more texture, especially if you apply it anywhere directly to the skin and you are darker there. So I fully color correct, so I know that that's not an issue, but that's the only way I can get this to even sit on my skin at all without giving me texture or longevity or breaking up on the skin. So I'm just gonna kind of barely tap right there. Add some light to this upper part of the cheek area and just help kind of give a little bit more coverage to my under eyes as well. Again, I'm avoiding texture areas all the way up to my lash line. I'm not doing that. I'm just right here where I have hyperpigmentation on this entire eye socket area. So by layering my shades there, I'm actually building up coverage. Same with this spot of hyperpigmentation. Again, I barely use any on my chin too, because that's another texture area. Okay, if you have a lighter neck, you can tap it along the jawline, or if you're pulling darker, like say you applied too much that day, it's the best way to kind of just bring in those lightest tones, stay matching. So it's magic time. The perfector, my best friend. The only way I can apply my makeup like this and get it back to the way I like it, which is natural. So I'd say this is pretty full coverage right now. If I was to fully set it without getting off excess, most likely this area of my face, can you see that, is gonna look cakey, okay? If you don't remove excess and you put a powder, any powder, whether it's just vanilla dust, which is more fine, or most likely a loose powder for sure, baking, I don't recommend if you're over 30, and you will definitely look cakey, okay? The only way to avoid that is this bad boy, or just applying very, very little to begin with, which is sometimes very difficult to get the coverage you want and apply such a light hand that you don't get cakey. You guys, I've tried for years to try to master that, and even I'm not good at it, okay? So the best way I can find to get the coverage I want, the longevity I need, is to use this method and then use this magic perfector to pull off the excess, make it look like skin again without taking all the coverage off. Can you see the difference? It's like crazy. But if this one is not prepared properly, it won't take off excess. And then when you put that powder on, you'll look cakey. So make sure you're prepping it. And I've done entire videos showing how to do it because there's a method to the madness. And the type of sponge matters too. So many factors that I've learned through 5 years of troubleshooting with you guys. Because everybody's skin is different. Everybody's application is different. Everybody's methods need different tips. So these are my tips that I've discovered. That's why I share them with you guys so that you can avoid as many as possible. And I can help you out when you do come across them. All right. So now I've got good medium coverage and I don't look cakey or too yellow. I'm suddenly matching. I mean, when I say the perfector is a game changer, I truly mean it. There's a reason why I don't recommend the makeup without it. So now I'm gonna go in, since I like a dewy and matte finish, I like the majority of my face dewy, but my under eyes, no matter what, just because when I smile, I get a lot of crinkles, right? Cream makeup doesn't set. The only way to set that area is to set it with a powder. So I'm gonna use the powder brush and again, touch it. Using that method allows you to know exactly how much you're picking up. You're not swiping in. If I was to swipe in and do the same thing, I would look older under my eyes because I have too much powder. So again, 5 years it took me to discover that that's the perfect amount for my under eyes. Then I can just kind of touch anywhere else that maybe I want to kind of take away a little bit of shine or prevent creasing. Then I can swipe in and be generous on my lid to make sure that is fully set for when I'm ready for eyeshadow. Okay, good. Now I did not put powder anywhere. I'm going to blush. So don't worry about cakiness or anything like that. We're finally ready. Let's do some swatches. Let me take this off. All right, my first impressions of Taffy. I love the 10, it's so cute. My first impression was that it's light, definitely in the peachy family. Get off that top layer so we can really get to the goods. Okay, so, oh, it actually pulls more pink than peach than I thought. Okay, let's do some comparisons. Cat hair, such is my life. I put in all of the lip, I organized all the lip and cheeks, all of our glosses, all of our mattes, and then I finally pulled out, we were getting so many limited edition shades that I finally had to pull them out separate because they won't fit in here in my old palette. Okay, so my first impression was that it was pretty light, and I thought it looked very similar to be honest, it looked like a mix between Audrey, which was a limited edition shade. It was a shade of the month earlier this year, and it was a very pale pink. I felt like it looked like a mix between that and Seint IIID, which is one of our permanent shades. So let's do some comparisons. Okay, so here is Seint IIID, much more peach. Okay, so, and much darker. Holy moly, much darker. So a lot more pink than I originally thought. I don't know why I thought that looked peachy pink. Okay, let's compare it to Audrey. Audrey was, oh man, this one's definitely not as light as Audrey. I can just tell. Audrey was super light. Like reminded me of Demi. So that's good. It's not that light. Audrey was difficult to wear for my skin tone for sure. So it is kind of like a mix in between the two. I'd say it's not as pink as Audrey, not as light, and not as orange or as dark as Saint Tropez. Interesting. I also thought it kind of reminded me a little bit of like Wallflower that we just had, which I'm still obsessed with, and I'm still super sad that it was a shade of the month because I want to wear it all the time. This was Wallflower. Okay, so it's not as dark as Wallflower. Wallflower was also a satin, which you guys know are my favorite. But this one was pretty sheer because satins are a little bit more sheer than the matte formulations. So let's see. Okay, so Wallflower is definitely more peach and darker, but really not that far off. Closest one, maybe. Okay, as far as mattes go, there's nothing else similar, but I'm sure I'll get asked, so I'm gonna put it next to Frenchie. So here's Frenchie, okay? So here's Taffy, here's Frenchie, okay? So Taffy's more pink and Frenchie is definitely a lot darker. Ballerina is a satin. It's much more nude. I've always considered this like a pinky nude, but man, it looks not pink at all in comparison to these. What about Boardwalk? Boardwalk, much more of a nude. I feel like Boardwalk and Desert Sunset are very similar. There's Desert Sunset, a little bit more pink. Okay, so we truly don't have anything quite that depth or tone. I would say if you are fair, we don't have a lot of really fair shades. I would pick this up while you can. Oh, what about Petal? Petal, I can tell you right off the bat, is gonna be a lot cooler because it was the most similar to Audrey. Cooler and lighter. Okay, Carousel, but this shade is so hard to swatch. It's so sheer. And it's got that more iridescent shimmer. I'm just going through them all, guys. Candy. Okay, it's kind of similar. Less pink, more peach. And last but not least, I'm gonna do Summer Love because it's one of my faves. I feel like they're pretty close in depth. Maybe not. Okay, so there you go. Those are all the closest lip and cheeks. But again, if I just look at it from far away, I don't feel like we have anything at the same depth per se. I feel like it really is lighter than some of these other shades, darker than some of these other. It's kind of at the same depth as Summer Love, which I love Summer Love. It's one of my favorites. So I was, to be honest, nervous about trying this on its own, but we're gonna try it on its own on one side. And then we're gonna, well, let's see what it looks like first. Let's see. I'm gonna wash my brush so there's no other factors in play. I originally thought I was not gonna be able to wear this based on the photo online, which we all know is very deceiving, but I didn't think I was gonna be able to wear this by itself because Audrey was very hard for me to wear by itself, but if you can compare the two, Audrey is very cool. Cool tones tend to wash me out. This one's got more warmth to it because it's got that peach in it. It's actually very neutral in my opinion. It's pink and peach, but it's not strongly warm or cool. I feel like it is extremely neutral. And I know you guys are gonna think, Sarah, you're crazy. You think everything's a neutral, but this tone in and of itself would be very hard to classify as cool or warm in my opinion. If I had to, I would say it would be a little bit more warm, but it doesn't look warm to me at all. So if you don't like warm or cool tones, I don't know what to recommend to you, but maybe this one would help you out. All right, so let's see. I know it's kind of light, but it's pretty pigmented actually, so it's not. Okay. So on the face, because it is a little light on my skin tone, you can tell it pulls a little cool. Does that make sense? Because it's just a little light. It's not bad, but not my favorite either. So, do you guys remember the trick to make this work? So, anytime you are using a shade too light and you feel like it's, I'm not, this doesn't wash me out per se. It probably will on my lips, but if it is making your skin tone look a little too, I don't even know how to describe it, chalky. That is the word I'm looking for. Chalky. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Do you see that? How it, because it's like pulling that area lighter than the rest of my face. So I see this a lot with under eye brighteners, where people like my skin tone that are using like one of the lightest shades we have, and they tell me it's looking chalky. That's what happens when you use a color too light. Now, with under eye brighteners, there's not a lot you can do besides just shade up. But with a shade like this, I can easily warm it up, darken it up. And all I would do is put a little bronzer over it. So I have my 3 fave bronzers here. Heat Waves, Glow Illuminator, and I just melted a Bella. So I'm going to just swirl into these. Okay, so I get a nice even distribution. And then I'm just gonna kind of slowly tap. Can you guys see how that chalkiness completely went away? It's like gone, like you can't even tell. Now that color is still on there. The tone is still there. I just added some more warmth with my bronzer. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So you try color and you're like, ugh, not my color. Add bronzer. This also in turn, you can wear any shade, okay? And sometimes you need to add a little bronzer and then you can put this over it. Sometimes you put this on and then you can add a little bronzer over it. Sometimes it just means that you can mix shades. So on this side, let's mix something, because I know people were a little upset that October's shade was not a fallish tone, but this color can truly, it's a really good option to mix with other colors in order to lighten up colors or add a touch of warmth to colors, but you could still use a darker toned blush with it to make your own shade. Does that make sense? So our most popular, I would say my favorite, how about that way? My favorite shades for fall would be Sandstone. Okay, and I'm gonna swatch all of these so that you guys can see on this side. Okay, so Sandstone is one of my favorites for fall. It is just that beautiful, warm, brick tone, undertoned red. It's just that warm tone that I think of fall, right? Now, if you don't like warm tones, our cool version, I guess you could say, that I feel like still looks super fall, would be Plum. It's more of that burgundy mauve undertone, which these two mixed together are one of my favorite shades in the whole world. Nude as well, which I feel like nude you can wear all year round, but nude is very similar to plum. It's just a little bit lighter, not as purple. Plum is technically darker and cooler. Nude has a touch more warmth to it. I should have done this one last because it's one of the most pigmented shades and it's going to stain my finger, but this is Sangria. So pretty. And then another very pigmented one, just a little dry. You guys know me, I don't wear reds as often. And when I do wear the shades, I usually put something over it to kind of tone it down a little bit. I like a very neutral blush. Like this to me is beautiful. I would wear this every day, all year round, and I'm good. These are more dramatic for me. I would mostly wear them for a bold lip. So the color that's been on repeat for me so far this year, because you guys know I like my glosses, is Royal. One of those that looks super dark and scary, but this one is like I always call it a wine undertone red, but if you like a more brown, warm tones, I feel like this is probably the closest one we've got. And it's super sheer, but buildable. You see that? If you like bronzy tones, oh my gosh, it's my jam. Like I wear it on I just throw it on my lips. I've been wearing it on my cheeks, nothing under it. It's pigmented enough to give me that wash of warmth. My very first favorite of all time was definitely this shade. Now I don't think it's just a fall shade, but it is definitely a shade for year round. It's very popular during fall, and this is Black Cherry. It's like a dupe for Clinique's, what's it called? Black Honey, I believe. So very similar, looks really scary, but this has got more of that plum undertone. And again, super sheer, but buildable. So you could build it up to get that purple tone. So these are two of my favorite toppers for any of these shades. So you say you try Sandstone and you're like, that's too warm. Top it with Black Cherry, it'll cool it down. Say you use plum and it's too cool, or pulling you kind of gray, one of these. Top it with Royal and it'll add a touch more warmth and take that away. I mean, you can mix and match and have endless combinations for your fall palette, okay? I'll be honest, guys, I was upset because I thought for sure this month was going to be one of my favorite shades of all time brought back, because I was thinking, oh, it's Halloween, like, let's put a spell on you, and it would be Love Spell. And I didn't realize until one of my teamies told me that was already earlier this year. That was February. And I was like, literally, guys, I can't remember earlier this year. So this one's Love Spell, one of my favorite. And we already had Rosewood too, which is an even warmer version of Sandstone. But just for giggles, here's Love Spell. It is so pretty. You can make it yourself by mixing, oh gosh, I'm totally getting my sleeves in this. Desert Sunset right there. And I've made it before, but this is how an artist created the shade. And crush up and mix it with a gilded eyeshadow, which is one of my all-time favorites. And that is Love Spell. So if you missed out on that, I think it was February, which was a really long time ago. My fingers are still crossed that holiday specials will be here, and maybe some of these limited edition shades will be included. I really hope so. If you've been here in the past, you know that they've done advent calendars and all kinds of limited edition fun things for Black Friday and for the holidays. So I will update you guys as soon as I know. But for now, these are my favorite fall shades. These aren't looking very fall. Let's see if we can fall it up, right? Okay, friends. I just used my arm as my palette and created a bunch of new colors with some of these fall shades and this color, Taffy. I will be honest, some of these color combinations surprised me. Like, look how purple that is. Is that not Okay, it's very purple. So probably not. Maybe I go back on my previous statement. I feel like this is pulling much more cool than warm in retrospect. Okay, based on how it's mixing. So let me see. This is black cherry and taffy. This hot pink, I love this hot pink actually, is ruby, which I forgot to show ruby. Let me swatch her real quick. Ruby is our most pigmented gloss. And I feel like she looks kind of summerish, but I know a lot of people wear these more bold colors in the fall. So ruby and taffy. Look how pretty that color is. It's like very fuchsia. I love it. Okay, so what else did I do? This one right here, I really like. This is Royal. I really like that one. This one's Nude. This one is Saffron. Nope, I lied. Sangria, which is the first one. Sangria, so that's another pretty hot pink. This one is Plum, so it made it pretty purple. And this one is Sandstone, which I love that. It kind of reminds me of a less coral version of Madrid. There's Madrid, there's Sandstone in that. Oh. So I'm trying to decide. Okay, so this side we got Taffy and bronzer. I'm debating between Sandstone or Royal. Like this is definitely more mauve, well, more pinky, but I feel like this color is very fallish. Okay, which makes sense. Okay, it does cool it down a little bit. This is our warmest lip and cheek shade we have, and this is definitely much lighter. So we're going for this shade. Okay, are we ready? Oh, let's see if we can recreate the swatch. When I mix, sometimes I layer, sometimes I mix like on my arm like this and just take straight from it. If you want to be able to see exactly what the color is going to look like first, that's what I suggest. So I'm going to mix a little bit more on my arm so that I have something to get the color from. And this was just like the most 50-50 mix. Definitely was not. Is that not pretty? Oh, we need this shade like permanently. That is really good. Like I thought I loved Madrid, but man, Madrid looks so orange in comparison to that, right? Yeah, I need that. You guys, I might be mixing this later. I really don't want to like use my only taffy. I might have to order another one so I can do a 50-50 mix because literally that is beautiful. Okay, let's try it. And I'm just gonna straight from my arm. This is why I'm obsessed with cream blushes, because you can literally wear a different concoction every single day. And you know what? That doesn't look that different. So Sandstone is the warmest shade we have, and this just added warmth. So I can tell more so in the mirror, but on video, I feel like they look very similar. Obviously, I have my favorite tones and it's warmth. So we have some good combos here. I would say Nude was one of my favorites too, if you like more mauve-y, but this Royal one might be my next. I'll have to try that and take a picture and show you friends. So I went ahead and did my eyebrows. I'm gonna go ahead and set. Nope, just kidding. Forgot illuminator. So let's go ahead, illuminate the cheekbones real quick. Rose gold, highest point of the cheekbones. Okay, now I'm going to set, because I want to fully test this primer. So I'm going to fully put my makeup on like normal. I went ahead and already had powdered that T-zone area, but this will give me a dewier finish, take away some of that powder finish. Okay, so I'm gonna let that dry and let's do some lips. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and line my lips with this, actually, let's do some lip conditioner. Now I'm gonna line my lips with Indigo, which is the color I used everywhere. Ooh, it's darker. I usually use Indigo if I am going to be doing a darker lip. I'll blend that out a little bit. But if I need to add warmth to a lip look, like if I was to use this straight on my lips, I'll just show you guys. It'll look chalky. Okay, I could make it work by using a warm color like Indigo, a darker color to darken it up slightly, or suede lip liner would work because it's warm. You see how it still kind of pulls a little light? Okay, you can either concentrate this color in the middle of like whatever normal lip color you're going to be wearing. It's going to make your lips look fuller if you have a lighter color in the center. Since I'm going to mix, and I never wear mattes straight on my lips anyway, to me it looks kind of gray, which usually when something is pulling gray on my lips, it means it's cool. So again, it must be a little bit cooler than, I really think it's more pink than I originally thought. I kept thinking it was peach. I think it's pink. Okay, so I'm gonna try this combination, and we're gonna go in with some Royal, which I'm obsessed with. So that not only warmed it up, added gloss, darkened it a touch, not too much. I feel like you might have to play with amounts to get the exact color. And obviously your lips will change the color of your lip sticks too. Okay, pretty, right? Another good combo. I'm gonna have to try this on the cheeks as well, but definitely loving it. Needless to say, this is your lesson that just because a color is light does not mean you can't make it work or utilize it. Utilize it to switch up some of your favorite colors. I feel like having something in your compact that you can mix with your colors to lighten or darken your faves is one of the best tools to have in your kit. Even if you can't wear it on your own, I'm gonna be using this to mix other colors for sure. Like literally you could wear that with bronzer on your lips. I mean, the possibilities are endless. Okay, let's go ahead and do some eye makeup. I have no idea what I'm gonna do. What should we do? I'm guessing we are still fall mode. Okay, I'm gonna use a base of chai just to even out my lids. Try to do an easy fall look with colors I don't use. Think we can do that? Because you guys know me, I go for the same colors, and fall tones are my jam. So this level, nothing screams fall at me. It's all pretty light. Lots of goodness on this. Oof. So many pretty tones. Okay, guys, we're gonna try eye look with 3 shades. Colors I don't wear a whole lot. Some of them maybe. Well, this one I love, but I'm not gonna use Bubba, Sedona, Drift, the ones I use every day, okay? It's a challenge. It's a challenge for me, guys. All right, so I have no areas to swatch, but this is what I'm thinking. Okay, I've got Butterscotch, okay? Warm, neutral. This is gonna add the warmth to our look, okay? You guys know I'm all about balance. I'm gonna try Eve, maybe outside corner, maybe just liner. We're gonna see what it looks like. I love this shade. It's similar to Revival, but this is actually a shimmer. So pretty. It'll give us kind of those burgundy tones. And then, I don't even want to swatch this. You guys, I never use this shade because it's hard for me to wear, but this is Angel's Landing. Okay, it is, see, and I'm trying to swatch with my pinky, so. Making it difficult. This is the very shimmery rose gold shade that I tell you have to be careful with if you have mature eyes like me, okay? So I'm gonna use that one sparingly in key places and with some key tips. I went ahead and tried one eye, made sure it worked, and I'm glad I did because there are some things I kind of had to change. So let's go ahead and get started with, first of all, our mid-tone matte, our 4 shade, which is Butterscotch. That is, right, it is Butterscotch. Yeah, I always want to call it Butternut. We're gonna go ahead and use this as our crease shade. And we're just gonna windshield wiper it in and above our hood. So in the actual crease and then up on that hood with your eyes open so that we can see the color. I'm gonna bring it all the way down to that outer corner for a good blend. Until we're at the depth we want. Okay, then I'm gonna flip over the brush and use that small end. Halo along the lower lash line. Okay, now remember I did use Chai on the lid. If you need to even out the lid a little bit, you can use that, or you can use it on the lower lash line to help you blend out the edges of the Butterscotch. I almost said butternut. Okay, I'm gonna switch up my order of application a little bit than I normally do because this last shade was a little bit more difficult to apply than I remembered. So first of all, I'm going to line my eyes with Black Friday. I felt like I was gonna need some depth, and to be honest, this shade, let me see if I can find a clean brush. Eve, I thought was very similar to Revival, but really it doesn't give nearly the depth, and it gives a lot more shimmer than I had remembered. Hadn't used it in a while. So I'm gonna add the depth with Black Friday cream eyeliner, and then I'm gonna top it with Eve. Oh, I got a little cray-cray with my eyeliner. That's okay. Cool thing about this method is that when you use Eve, it will actually tone it down and kind of correct your line a little bit. Now, the only bad thing about this method is that I like to apply this part with my multitasker, and then I'll have to clean it for the next shade. So you can use the small end to kind of set that, but I kind of wanted to show more shimmer. So I pressed it on with the large end kind of haphazardly above that line too. So it'll give you that depth at the lash line, but then to actually see more of that color, you can go a little bit higher. Does that make sense? Now I went ahead and added a little bit of depth on the outer corner with the smudge brush and Eve. This color can really be built up. I feel like it's not super dark when you just kind of barely tap in. But I think it's because I'm used to Revival. Revival is way darker. Okay. Then I'm gonna go in with this small end. And just barely add a little bit more depth to that outer corner. Okay, now I'm gonna wash my multitasker glitter primer. I forgot how, can you guys see how, you see all the glitter? Literally like, this is not a glitter eyeshadow. It's classified as a shimmer, but this is why I warn you guys that not all shimmers are equal. This one literally is a chunky shimmer, and it almost looks like a glitter on the eye, okay? You might be able to see, okay? But the more you apply, the more you'll see. Like it at first looks kind of chunkier, but if you apply more, it looks more solid. Does that make sense? So I'm just getting the tiniest little dot, running it in between my fingers, and then just touching my eye where I want a slight tackiness, so that when I apply this color, it does not fall all over my face. I got no fallout on this side, but you also really want to use the multitasker, and you want to be careful how you pick up the product. So I am going to kind of dig in and press into that shadow to pick up, and you can kind of see how it picks up on the brush, okay? Tap off excess and touch, okay? Kind of looks a little sparse and chunky, and then we repeat. And we slowly build up that color. Shadow is hard to get off. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just a very different formulation. Okay, make sure you're tapping off excess, because again, it can be a little chunky. And then just press on the eye and keep pressing to move that product around. And keep this out of your crease and out of your hood, please. Like, this is the first thing that will age you. I made the mistake if I tried to use some on the inner corner. I don't recommend it. It just looks like glitter. So once it's at kind of the depth you want, make sure it's all where you want it, then you can be done with that shade. Now I'm going to use the small end, and I'm going to just use my illuminator. So I dipped into rose gold, and I'm going to use that to highlight under the brow and my tear duct. Okay, then I always like to go back into that mid-tone matte just to make sure I didn't get any wayward sparkles in my crease. All right, and there you have it. There is our October get ready with me with, I almost pushed this out, it's in my palette, with Taffy and all the goodness of some fun fall shades. I hope that was helpful and you maybe learned something new. If you are needing help with your Seint IIID Foundation or Demi Colour, I'd be more than happy to help you out. Just fill out my color match request. It's in the drop box below the video. Tell me all the ways you like to wear your makeup or any issues you might be having, and I'd be happy to help you troubleshoot and make sure you have the right colors, which is numero uno. There you go. I will put all of the colors I used in the drop box as well. If you have any questions or comments, drop them below. And as always, thank you guys for being here. I will see you next week. Love you.